Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating and honestly absolutely critical intersection in the global financial landscape. We are looking at the collision of hyperinflation, mainstream crypto adoption, and the downright desperate need for financial privacy in Latin America. We're going to see how a completely revolutionary approach to digital dollars is stepping up to solve a crisis that, well, you might not even know exists. So let's just jump right in. 250%. Now, that massive number is not some obscure, highly volatile crypto metric. That is actually the depreciation value of the Colombian peso relative to the US dollar over just a 10-year period. Think about that for a second. Even in Colombia, a country that hasn't really experienced the sheer catastrophic hyperinflation of some of its neighbors, citizens have still watched their local currency lose an immense amount of purchasing power. This establishes a really dire real-world need for currency alternatives. For these folks, we're not talking about speculation, we're literally talking about financial survival. And because of that generational trauma from inflation, how people interact with digital money has completely shifted. Stablecoins, which are cryptocurrencies pegged to a stable asset like the US dollar, are basically the undisputed killer app down there. Look at Brazil. A staggering 90% of all crypto volume is in stablecoins. In Venezuela, 34% of all everyday retail volume is transacted exactly this way. And across the entire LATAM region, we're looking at nearly $200 billion in annual remittances. For these populations, it's an incredibly easy sell, right? You bypass the wild volatility of Bitcoin and just hold a tokenized dollar to protect your life savings from a local currency collapse. All right, moving to section 1, the public ledger problem. So as widespread as this adoption is, it brings us to a massive hidden danger. The current stablecoin solutions people are relying on right now carry a fundamental structural flaw. Think about the contrast in financial privacy. In your traditional Web 2 banking world, when you receive your salary or pay a vendor, that transaction is completely private. It's strictly between you, your employer, and the bank. Your competitors absolutely cannot see your cash flow. But Web 3 today, operating on public blockchains like Ethereum or Tron, it broadcasts your entire financial life to the world. If someone knows your wallet address, they can just hop onto a public block explorer and see exactly who you're paying, how much, and how often. You are effectively publishing your personal bank statement for the entire globe to read. To make this threat a bit more concrete, let's look at a very specific example from the source material: Argentinian cattle ranchers. The cattle industry in Argentina is massive, and a lot of ranchers heavily rely on stablecoins to escape local inflation. But because these transactions are happening on public ledgers, their competitors can see exactly what they're selling and for exactly how much. Their entire business network and client list totally exposed. And even worse, receiving large incoming foreign transactions on a public ledger puts a literal physical target on these users. Criminals can watch the money moving and figure out exactly who holds it. So a lack of privacy here isn't just a business disadvantage, it literally jeopardizes people's physical safety. Plus, the transparent nature of these public ledgers actually encourages highly targeted digital attacks. Have you ever heard of a dust attack? This is a malicious tactic we're already seeing happen on Ethereum with USDC. Basically, attackers use automated coding to generate an address that looks really similar to an address you frequently transact with, a process known as grinding. They then send a fraction of a penny to your public wallet. And they aren't doing this to be generous. They're hoping that the next time you go to pay your vendor, you check your public block explorer history, accidentally copy-paste their manipulated address, and send your funds straight to the attacker. The crucial takeaway here is captured perfectly in this quote from the source. It puts a target on your back. Someone finds those wallets and figures out who that person is and what they're doing. It becomes a security threat. That hits the nail on the head. It perfectly summarizes the ultimate flaw of first-generation stablecoins, especially for vulnerable populations in emerging markets. Without privacy, the system is fundamentally broken for everyday use. But there is a real solution emerging: a blockchain network called Midnight, which focuses on what they call rational privacy, and their partner Monetta are actually preparing to launch a fiat-backed privacy stablecoin called ShieldUSD. Let's get into section 2, introducing rational privacy. Okay, so we need to understand how this technology actually works to solve that public ledger problem without instantly running afoul of global regulators. On Midnight, this system operates with default privacy, but includes a really clever mechanism for required disclosure. What this means for you, the user, is that every transaction is completely hidden from the public. If you send the exact same transaction over and over between two wallets, it's going to look entirely different on the blockchain every single time. The system generates a brand new NOTs, which you can kind of think of as a unique one-time digital password for every single transfer. Because of this, no patterns can be traced. The threat of Block Explorer doxing or those sneaky automated dust attacks completely eliminated. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, how compliance actually works. Now, privacy sounds absolutely amazing for the user, but historically, regulators hate it. So let's explore the slightly nerdy mechanics of how ShieldUSD stays compliant while actually keeping your data safe. It relies on a brilliant separation of powers, designed to protect users from arbitrary seizures and smart contract hacks. Here's the regulatory process. First, an auditor holds a special key allowing them to view the underlying records of a flagged transaction, ensuring everything is auditable. But the auditor cannot freeze your funds. Second, a compliance officer can freeze a wallet, but they can't actually view the transaction records natively. They have to formally request that from the auditor. Finally, if illicit activity is truly confirmed by law enforcement, a third role, the issuer, uses a totally specific key to seize individual chunks of funds, known as UTXOs, one at a time. This multi-step process basically forces difficult checks and balances and ensures your money is secure from rogue actors while still satisfying the regulators. And listen, this isn't just some theoretical cypherpunk idea. It's a necessary incoming infrastructure upgrade. For instance, Brazil has passed laws saying that by 2028, strict travel rules and reporting laws for stablecoin transactions have to be implemented. Entities moving hundreds of millions of dollars between the US and Brazil are going to have to report this data. Midnight's selective disclosure ensures that companies can fully comply with the Brazilian government without exposing their entire financial pipeline to the public, or worse, to their market competitors. All right, let's wrap up with Section 4, the future of digital dollars. So what does this all mean for the macro outlook? There are massive implications here for enterprise adoption and the global workforce. Looking at the ultimate use cases, global remote payroll is huge. Right now, companies like Remoti in Colombia are nearshoring massive headcounts for major corporations like McDonald's, and they are practically begging for clean infrastructure to pay their workers in private, stable dollars without dealing with complicated localized banking. Then you've got B2B payments, allowing businesses to finally hide vendor transactions from competitors. You have everyday retail spending, where you can buy groceries without the cashier seeing your entire life savings on a screen. And of course, on-chain dApps, where users can trade and do yield farming with full financial privacy. To make all of this really functional, the Monetta team is building an absolutely incredible feature called the seamless switch. Eventually, ShieldUSD will let users flip their funds between shielded and unshielded states entirely within the exact same smart contract. So if a specific decentralized exchange requires unshielded liquidity so the broader market can see the volume, you can just unshield a portion of your funds, interact with the app, and then shield them right back, all while maintaining core privacy for your main holdings. It's a real game changer. It creates that crucial bridge between absolute privacy and the transparent liquidity global markets demand. So we've seen how stablecoins are a literal life-saving tool against hyperinflation, but we've also seen the devastating risks of public ledgers. Rational privacy through technologies like ShieldUSD isn't just a luxury anymore. It's the absolute required next step for mainstream financial infrastructure. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. As digital dollars inevitably become the global standard for remote work and daily spending, who are you willing to let see your entire financial history? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.